Why do you think Pharaoh was so excited to meet Yosef's brothers? Pharaoh took over the world with one Yosef. What do you think he's going to do with 5 more, 10 more Yosefs? He's going to rule forever. He's going to make new worlds with them. I'll give you an example. Imagine you got this guy that comes into Donald Trump empires, and he's starting at the bottom from the mailroom, and little by little he's working his way up, and everywhere he goes, everything turns to gold. Finally, Donald Trump finds out about this $1 million kid, and he makes him his right-hand man, and they're making billions. And he finds out that he's got brothers that are coming to town. So, of course, this $1 million Joe the $1 million man, comes and brings his brothers to meet Donald Trump, and right, he's excited, and he's got, his eyes are glowing, shining. Water, you know those water? Why? Because he's seen dollar signs. And he's like, okay, let me meet your brothers. Let's see, what can they do for me? How can they make me even more billions? And so I'll give you the way the whole story goes out. So Joe comes as, Donald, yeah, how you doing, Joe? I brought you, my brothers, they're in town. This is amazing. They're so excited to meet you. So he turns to the brother, like, okay, what's your name? Yeah. After the small talk, okay, so what do you do? And so one of them stands up as if representing all of the entire tribe of Joey's tribe. And says, well, Mr. Trump, we're garbage men. Yeah, my daddy was a garbage man. My granddaddy was a garbage man. My great-granddaddy was a garbage man. Anything you want to know about garbage, you just ask us. We are garbage experts. And the smile turns into a frown. And the next words out of Donald Trump is, Joe, can you do me a favor? Can we figure out where to send these guys? Because the sad ending to his story is that I can't do anything with them because they're talking about garbage. What can I do with garbage? So now, Yosef, again, all orchestrated, brings the brothers in. They know exactly what they're going to be asked and exactly what they need to say. So Pharaoh, right away, not bad. And these are the 5 weak ones. What do you guys do? What is your life? What are you good at? So right away, the brothers ask, obviously, all in unison, like one of them for everyone. Well, Mr. Pharaoh, we're shepherds. My father was a shepherd. My grandfather was a shepherd. My great-grandfather was shepherds. We're shepherds. We've been shepherds for generations. Our life is all about being shepherds. And that, in Egypt, in that time and place, was like saying, we're garbage men, and we can do nothing for you. That's what they told Pharaoh, for different reasons. Number one, we see already in the story that when Joseph and the Egyptians that were with Joseph and the brothers came to eat lunch, so they all sat on separate tables. Why? Because it was considered abhorrent. It was despicable to sit together with a Hebrew at the same table. Socially, they were like worse than anything you've ever seen in America in social differences. The lowest of the low were the Hebrews, were the Jews in the eyes of the Mitzrim, the Egyptians. And so when they told them they were shepherds, because that was a despised line of work, like worse than being being a garbage man. Yeah. And that's why socially they wouldn't even sit at the same table with them. So, and that's what Yosef understood. In order for this to work, in order for us to come into Egypt and leave a Jewish people instead of Egyptian people, like we saw over the different exiles, if we're not going to turn Greek, turn Roman, turn American, turn whatever, if we're going to survive, then there's only one way. We have to be isolated. We have to be separate from them. If we're going to just come in and become absorbed in this mass insanity, well, then you know what happens when you're in a country where everybody's insane. They think you're crazy and they're insane because the majority rules. It's a very cute story about that. There was, again, one of those old-style king stories. There was a kingdom that's grain was poisoned. So the unique result of the grain for that crop for that year was that anyone who ate it would become shtickle meshugana, or maybe more than a shtickle. So the advisors and the king are meeting. So what do? We have grain and it's all of our food, and if anyone eats it, they're going to become crazy. So the king says, so we won't eat it. We won't eat it. We'll buy grain from somewhere else. So they're like, I'm sorry, we can't do that. We don't have enough money to do that. We have no choice but to eat it. So the king's like, okay, we'll try one more idea. Let's give it to the people, but we'll get grain for ourselves so that we'll eat the healthy grain, and we won't get crazy. They said, I'm sorry, king, strike number 2. If we give the grain that makes them all crazy, and we eat grain that keeps us sane, so then they'll decide we're insane and they're sane and they'll oust us, they'll kill us and take over the country. So that's not a solution either. So Number three, what do we do? He finally turns to the advisor, which he's done in the first place. So the advisors say, look, we're all going to have to eat the grain and we're all going to have to go crazy together. But we'll put a sign on ourselves so that when we look at each other, we'll be reminded that we're crazy. That was the only solution. And that's what it means to go to 48th and Broadway. That's what it means to go to America. I'm proud of my American heritage. I'm made in America. In my tag, it says 1972. What year does your tag say? 2000. And that's, each one has its own insanity. It's funny because I can call your generation insane because I think my generation was sane. And you know what they called my generation when it came around? Insane. And so on and so on. Groundhog's Day again? Yeah, there you go. Anyway, so that's the idea. You're going to go to Mitzrayim and you're going to be part of them and in their schools and their culture. Then you're going to go insane with them. As it is, with all these three key ingredients for success, we almost didn't make it. The Jews reached the 49th level of impurity, and it was only because Hashem came and took us out that we actually survived. And that's with all of this strategic, placing everything the way it was. So again, let's retrack our steps and understand exactly how we need to move forward for the future. How are we going to get out of this insane nightmare that we're stuck in? And I don't like to be negative, so I call it a dream, but it's a nightmare because assimilation, intermarriage. Even people that call themselves rabbis are insane because they're not really rabbis, but they call themselves rabbis. At least they want to be rabbis, but they're insane. So again, the key to success is number one. We need to know who the strong among us are. We need to know who the true survivors and the true leaders are, and the ones that are really paving the way towards life. And that's the Yosefs, Hatzadik. That's the righteous, the strong, the giants among us, and we have to see them and follow them. Without that, if we think we're all leaders, we're leading ourselves off a cliff. So number one, we have to know who the Yosefs are, who the Ephraims and the Menashes are, and we have to realize that they're the ones that we have to follow their lead. And they're not leaders because they went to some leaders course. They're followers. They're following Hashem. They're just doing so good at it that they're in front, and so we follow them. Judaism's definition of a leader is the best follower. And therefore, he becomes our leader. But he's following the same people that he's also following. That's a Jewish leader. So we got to find our leaders, who are the best followers, and follow them. Those that have sight will guide us in the right direction. But if we become the blind leading the blind, then we're all hopeless. And that's what's going on when you don't have Torah, when you don't have the truth. So that's solution number one. Solution number two, a base Talmud, a bet Talmud. It's not enough to theorize religion. It's not enough to theorize Jew. What's Jewish theory? There is no Jewish theory. There's only Jewish practice. The Torah was given together with action. Without action, there is no Torah. Without action, it's going to university. It's secular philosophy. Has no action behind it. You could say whatever you want. You could study the Aztecan period of 22 BC for the next 5 years of your life and get a piece of paper that's worth less than the paper they printed it on. So you accomplish nothing. Torah is action. Without action, it's nothing. And therefore, a base Talmud is, how am I going to live my life? That's what I'm learning about, because that's how I survive. The life you live will determine whether you're sheltered and shielded and whether you survive and whether you've lived or died, a slow death or lived a long life. So that's number two. And number three, it's Yosef's genius plan, is we need to understand what real Jewish identity is, and we have to insulate ourselves. We have to have our Jewish way, and we cannot compromise it. We have to raise our children on holiness and purity. We have to have the Bet Knesset, a place, a refuge, a light in the darkness that we can go to and see the light and live together as a people, and not just be hefker, not just be scattered and anything goes. The secular world, anything goes. And I mean anything today. I mean, you thought anything was yesterday. Today, anything goes. It's 5 years old. Chris, instead of Christina. That's what goes today. And when you have a Torah that doesn't change, and make sure that you don't change, and you have your Jewish communities, you have your Jewish rabbis, and you have that Bet Knesset and the Bet Midrash, then you survive. And it's not enough to just survive. We really ultimately have to thrive and ultimately conquer. Because at the end of the day, it's all about Yosef. When we have our comfort zone, our home, when our home is our home, it's a Jewish home, and it's run the way we know it needs to be run, and we don't bring everything into it to contaminate it, then we have that powerful nucleus. And then we could spread the real light and this real goodness to the world. And then we could light up the world. But if you let the world light you up, then you're all in the same darkness. So we have to have our truth, our light, our strength, our neshamas. And then we can go out, and then we'll be respected and listened to, and then we'll see a world that will listen and follow, and ultimately this whole world will be Hashem's together with us. Because Hashem doesn't want a corner, He doesn't want a dot on the map, He doesn't want a piece of the map, He wants the whole map, He wants everyone. Bezrat Hashem, the entire world and everyone in it will recognize and know Hashem together with us, and we will all serve Hashem as one.
Amen.